If you want to go the long game, we could do 8 hours.
No, maybe a half an hour would be good. Here we go.
We are live.
Joel.
It's only been 1 month. Oh my God, I got blurry. Hello.
We're like, stop waving your hand in front of the camera.
Welcome back, B Plus Podcast, episode 38. Got together today because there's
an epidemic.
There's an epidemic for me being a nerd. Today is the discussion that I wanted to have with my good friend Nasim here about sports versus esports. Now,
the epidemic is the breakout of esports, and they think that they're actual sports, although they're not.
Okay. Is that where we're going?
No, we're not. That'll be the end.
Well, what's your thoughts? Hold on. I'm curious now.
Okay. I'll start it off. This is what I wrote up. This was on a walk on the nicest day we've had. And then the temperature went from 60 to 18 that night. And everything froze. Should esports, and you can answer this with a yes or no, be in the Olympics? What do you think? You're contemplating, aren't you?
Well, I mean, I'm not really the one to ask that.
Olympic sport. Let me segue with this. I remember sometimes when I would be playing Warcraft and we'd be getting tuned up that I feel like it was so difficult. It should be an Olympic sport, but right. I'm not sure it should be in the Olympics. But
yeah, but
the argument can be made. This is the very delicate argument,
right? But what's like? I want to say like, what's the definition of Olympics? But like, I know that's a stupid question. But like, what is? I mean, that's for the top echelon of athletes.
Yeah.
Now, are we saying esports players are athletes? No, I'm not saying that.
I'm saying that here. This is how I'll break it down. Athletes are going to be using more gross motor skills. Their level of athleticism comes from them being able to use their entire body. So the larger muscle systems, let's say. Esports won't be, and hasn't for some time been getting the same recognition as other sports do. And although it probably won't be seen in the Olympics anytime soon at all, if you do compare, and if you want to get right down to it, the fine motor skills, and you want to get down to if you're able to compare archery and stationary target shooting that also already take place in the Olympics, you're really not that far off from being able to use this type of fine motor training or these fine motor muscle skills. And the argument can be made that you use the same motor cortex in professional traditional sports and esports. And the only way you can defeat somebody in esports basically is by out practicing them a lot. I mean, a real lot. Like, you put more volume into these neural pathways, you put more practice, more intensity. You're gonna be practicing so much that you would have put in so much time and effort that you're beating people near your level that has almost had the same time and effort put into being that good at that one particular game. Let's even break that down. It's a pattern your brain is recognizing through your eyes, and you're kind of like twitch reacting to that pattern when it syncs up to a certain formula or position or a couple different rounds. Like, you're basically being really good at one thing. That's what everyone else does in the Olympics. So besides having to put a lot of time in, which these people had to do also in their respective Olympic sport, we're talking, basically it comes down to having like a lightning fast reflex to patterns in front of us. And that's not far off from what we're trying to accomplish in esports. That is what esports is. But if you're comparing what goes on with archery and stationary target shooting, it's kind of the same. You're using the same stuff. Okay. And if it could be said that when you use your motor cortex to in professional sports, traditional sports, and esports, you're using the same thing. So they're both similar. Arguments have been and can be made that they should be in the Olympics, and that I just don't see it happening anytime soon. That's the reality of it all.
See, I'm not going there. The reason why I wanted to have this podcast and why I brought the topic up to you is because Me myself, I don't give a shit about sports. Do I watch the Super Bowl because everyone does? Yeah. Do I root for Penn State because I went there? Yes. Um, People ask me what's my football team. I say the Miami Dolphins. Ask me how many Miami Dolphins games I watched in the last 10 years, and I could probably count them on one hand.
Okay.
I don't care about it because, I mean, I don't want to say because I don't play it or I don't do it, but I just, uh, when the reason why we're having this podcast is because last Wednesday the Overwatch League started. Now, I'm a huge Overwatch player.
Okay. I've played before. It's good.
I play it a lot, still to this day. But what went down is a conversation I had with my family, who are big into all sports. And when jokingly I sent them a text message and I said, "Yo, guys, the game's on. You know, like you got to get the game. You got to get the game." So I said, "The game's on tonight," and they're like,
yourself up for failure there because they're not going to take it.
They're like, "What game?" And I'm like, "The game. You know, the Overwatch League. It's starting tonight." Oh well, I didn't say Overwatch League. I said OWL because that's what everyone's called, Owl.
Okay.
And they're like, I don't know what that is. And I'm like, "Oh, it's the Overwatch League." And I sent them a link, and they were laughing because obviously everyone has gamer tags as their names. I mean, it shows the real name, but it also shows gamer tags like we use, like Seftimor and Nasum. Yeah. And people, or I just got like laughed my ass off. You know, this is like, and
because they can't take it seriously.
They can't take it seriously because it's not a, you know, I guess it's not a showing of athleticism or whatever. But I just here's something that I like to say, and it might not be a huge argument, but it's something that I like to say, and that is when these people, and I guess the bad taste I got in my mouth is from.
You mean these people? That's your cousins, right?
Well, people that, you know, no, it's actually not. Where I'm going with this is like the people that you're out at a bar and like a certain team is playing and that team loses. And it's like, can't talk to this person anymore. Like they're so indebted to watching laundry run around on a field that they, you know, they're done the rest of the night. You know,
they're angry.
They're angry, you know, and that always put a bad taste in my mouth. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. It's like that you're that into it. Like we've watched how many UFC fights where we like die hard rooted for someone and like we didn't feel like shit after.
No, I mean it might be different stakes for us when it comes to UFC. That is actually a sport that we both watch. The only sport that I watch. I don't really watch any esports, but I used to watch my share of a lot of StarCraft, a lot of Warcraft, a lot of different. Well, there's two different types of Warcraft. I see Dota's. You can make a lot of money if you're really good at that. What else? League of Legends.
Counter-Strike.
It can be argued that you can make a lot of money if you're good at any of the ones that I'm mentioning right now, and that's awesome because that wasn't really an option in the 80s, or not even so much the 90s. But I'd have to say after 2010, yeah, maybe in the 2000s, yeah. I mean, it's always been like the Warcraft, StarCraft things has always been really real in South Korea. So that's a whole different culture. I don't think our culture is willing to accept that esports are real versus the sports, which are so ingrained and traditional into our American society. And I only say that because you have a lot of old schoolers teaching the next generation, like what they're into. And they pick up off of that. There's going to have to be maybe you teaching esports to someone else for them to want to care or get into it or look that far into it. It's actually so new that people will be like, well, what is this? Nah, that's not real. Like, and then they're done. They've cast their judgment that quickly. You know what you said before? Would you think that people would think that esports are more legit if people didn't use gaming handles and use their real names?
No. You got fucking people in football, Ocho Cinco. You know, everybody's they all got King James. LeBron James is King James. Like,
I mean, those are nicknames. People have nicknames in MMA, but everyone goes by their full name pretty much.
I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think it's just people that, you know, I mean, even if, you know, I mean, I get looked down at the mention that I still play video games. You know,
Okay.
I get looked down, for that. Like, what are you doing? You're 32 years old. Well, dude, that's what I like. That's what, I grew up with. That's my relaxation. You know how you watch the games for 4 hours? Well, I play Overwatch 4 hours. What's the fucking problem here?
4 hours.
I
had to sit down for a flight for 4 hours, and it just tweaked me up.
I'm just saying, like, I'm just making a number up, but, if that's what I want to do. But what I was saying was, these people that yell, "Yo, you should have fucking ran up the middle, or you should have passed the ball, or you should have did whatever." As you can see, my knowledge of sports stinks, so I apologize for that. But, these people are yelling and screaming and throwing shit, and like, you don't play football. These people are the top echelon of what they're doing. You don't play that. Like, you have no idea what's that. Like, you should have did this, you should have did that. Meanwhile, we're like chugging down beers and we're 100 pounds overweight. Like, but I play Overwatch. I compete. I don't compete, but I play competitive Overwatch.
Yeah.
Like, I could see when someone fucks up because I've actually done that.
Well, it can be argued that people played football and watch football, same with basketball or baseball, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they have time invested in it, like in that sense. So they did it at a lower level, not the top echelon. And it could be argued that like professional football in college can, like, some people can go back and forth on which one's more upper. So that aside, yeah, you can play an esport casually and then watch people compete. You'll know what's going on, sure. But other people could have played an actual sport and then watch the pros do it. And then, they still have that same kind of like link. It's just that esports are so new that no one's really accepting it. And I think before, what I was explaining, should they be in the Olympics, it wasn't just a question to get us started. It was something to think about. Here's the rules for an Olympic sport to be in the Olympics. Here's the rules for an esport. They're not that far apart. Well, then how come one can't be there and one can? One's a lot older than the other one. That's probably the reason. And one's widely accepted, and the other one just really isn't, because it is so new. And then we went through some of the different dynamics of what makes an esport and what makes the other sports. We're trying to show that fine motor skills can be in a sport just as much as gross motor skills can be. But like the traditional, I guess, American sports are largely rooted in gross motor body movements. So it's
right, but they're also playing as a team. There's also team in it.
Oh yeah, there's a team element to both. But I think people are starting to make some weird distinction, like, oh, you're playing a game and like these people are athletes. I'm like, well, no, they can both be athletes. It's just,
I mean, I wouldn't say athlete. I put that with, I mean, like you said, like an athlete using their whole body, or I mean, I guess there is a line like you were talking about with the.
I'm telling you, man, it's gross motor skills or fine motor skills, and it's about putting all this time and hours into it. That's what makes the difference. I watch MMA. I don't practice MMA. Do I get invested and have fun watching it? Like when we watch it, yeah, I have a blast. But like, I think I'd even have more to mow over in my mind if I practice one aspect of it. That's why I've been telling you for a while, which I haven't signed up for yet. I mean, I want to start taking some jiu-jitsu classes.
Like that's even like frowned upon in still in some places, like, oh, you're going to watch that, like MMA, like you're going to, that, it hasn't, MMA is like not as big as, like sports. Like I'm sure even if you go, like I was looking at like the Overwatch League's Twitter, and they have like 2 million followers. I'm like, what's the NFL have? And it's like 22 million.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, think about it this way. When I was talking about an esport or a sport from its infancy to where it is now, UFC as a Gracie promotion started like in the 90s, let's say. So it's actually been around a little bit longer than some of the esports trying to establish themselves now. But the deals that, I mean, the Fertitta brothers bought that company off of the Gracies at a pretty low price, and they sold it, I think it was 2016 or 17, for like 13 billion, something like that. Like they made a good deal, and it is pretty popular. I mean, especially after all the stuff that happened last year with like Connor, and before that with Ronda, like you got household names now. So you can see how it's growing, but it took the time and it took the certain type of appeal and marketing. So,
but it's still not up there, like
I really don't know where it is. I've been watching it since the beginning.
Let's put it this way: if you go to any, if you go to walk out the door on a Sunday to any rando bar, I mean, mind you, it's we're talking free or NFL Sunday ticket or something like that, or pay-per-view. But if you walk out your door and just walk down to a local bar or this bar or that bar, the game's on. But you have to literally go on like UFC.com and search for like what bar may have it around here.
Yeah, it's funny you could do that now, which in the beginning you couldn't do at all. So it's pretty cool.
But what is between from me and this is like I'm excited because I finally have something to watch like 99 fucking % of the world does. I have something that I could sit down now on Saturday and like 2 o'clock, like to me, like the game's on,
Okay.
But why can't I say, yo, you got the game? What are you talking about? Overwatch League. Get the fuck out of here.
And
then people come to my house and they're like, yo, you got the game? I'm like, dude, I don't even know who the fuck's playing. Like, what do you want? And they're like,
pretty dangerous stuff to say. The NFL playoffs are on right now.
Yeah, like, oh, I don't even know who's playing. And but that's okay. And if I don't know or I don't follow that, then like something that's weird. That's not manly, or that's not I'm just like being a child. What I'm saying?
You know what? I mean, since video games have only been around as far as they've been, it took a long time for them to actually break through the barrier of where they needed to actually have a show. If you think shows about video games for as long as people have been playing them weren't even really like, think about playing through the 80s and the 90s, and like there was only like a handful of shows that came and went. So it's like, let's compare how UFC started and then marketed themselves to where they are now. That worked. And it's like the esports weren't marketing themselves to be a brand of a sport. So you're right. MMA isn't accepted as much as football, but football is the top. So, what are you going to do for America? I mean, unless you're talking about like football for the rest of the world.
I'm just saying, do you think that we're going to get into a spot where the sports fan, well, I mean, I guess it's just like a certain, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess it's just like a certain sector where like, you'll have your diehard baseball, your diehard NFL, your diehard NBA, but those people ain't going to watch like fucking water polo, or they're not. So this is just basically another subset like that. But, do you think something like the Overwatch League that's backed by Blizzard and backed by Twitch and backed by Amazon, do you think that has something to become a household name? You think one day I could walk over to my cousin's house and be like, put the game on, and they'll be like, oh yeah, the Dallas Fuel is playing the fucking Soul Dynasty. Yeah, I'll put it on.
No, your cousins aren't going to do that, and they're going to laugh at you too. They're just going to keep doing what they've been doing. They're not changing it. Like, they don't even play games, I don't think. So they're not going to change the way they do things. Let me think. I would like to say yes to what you're proposing, but it doesn't seem likely. It's like we talked about before. If it needs more time to establish itself, you can't throw the minute amount of time that it's been around right now against how long football's been going and baseball's been going and basketball's been going, and the history and the time and the camaraderie and what it means to like states and like different parts of like America. And like, we're not even talking about soccer or football for the rest of the world. Like, that's this. It's how are we ever going? You know what you really want to ask is, how are we ever going to be able to populate how are you going to generate enough of want for esports for people to of all different types to jump on? Because people just jump on the football and like they just watch. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I don't even know if they know what's happening all the time, but they just watch it. Maybe because other people are doing it. It's so popular that people just jump on. They'll bandwagon. It's hard to bandwagon on something that doesn't even have the steam to do that yet. People don't even know what's going on, basically. Like, when you watch an Overwatch League, do you watch it on a channel or do you have to stream it?
I watch on Twitch.
Twitch. Okay, there you go. So you'll still have to go online and stream it.
Yeah, it's also on MLG, which I don't know what that is.
Major League Gaming?
I'm guessing, but I don't think they have a channel.
I don't know of any channels that do anything like that.
Right. That's why I'm going to make the first esports bar.
Okay.
There's a million sports bars. I'm going to make the esports bar.
Can I watch MMA at your esports bar?
We'll have esports and MMA.
Okay. All right. No, I'll be over.
It's funny because I said it to one of my buddies, and he's like, "The problem is that the people that play games don't come outside." And I go, "Well, maybe it's because they need an esports bar."
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Well,
maybe that would help.
The Overwatch League Twitter was tweeting out like Boston played New York on Thursday, and as you know, Boston and New York have a big rivalry because of the Red Sox and the Yankees.
So there, you're already saying there's a rivalry that exists with an older sport.
Right. So
you can't get away from it. It's just like like, what do you do?
I'm not saying get away from it. I'm just saying, the reason I wanted to have this was because it's something that I enjoy, and it's something, and this might be selfish or whatever, but like it's something I could finally root for, like other people have. And when I do that, it's still like, oh, you're a fucking tool. You're a fucking nerd. Like, get out of here with watching your video games.
I think people get stuck on that part. And although you're making a distinction, I don't know what you would have to do to change their mind. So like you have to take like your cousins that have fun poking fun at you for playing video games still and not really looking at it as something serious.
Well, they never really poked fun. Like, I don't want to fucking be crucifying my like, we're really close and all that, but like just when I sent like the thing, these like
they were like, "Lol."
Yeah, that's
like,
it.
Get this crap out of here.
It wasn't like get out of here, nerd. Like, no, dude. Like, me and my cousins are close. But I'm just I was just making an example of people that I know who watch stuff religiously, and if I went over there, it's probably gonna be like, no, I'm not turning this little kid shit on, or
it's like if I knew people were fans of a more traditional sport, I wouldn't even begin to tell them, "Hey, check out Overwatch League. You might like this." I would already know, like, this just isn't for them.
I think though, if something's going to make it, this is what's gonna be it. Like, this is gonna be the biggest push.
Well, I think this is still pretty early, and I'm glad that it's being recognized. And kudos to Blizzard for always coming up with an inventive way to take something that's already being done and just make it so much better. Right. But I think we're going to run into the problem where it just needs a lot of time to establish itself and people to sit down and be like, "Oh, this is cool." Because like even when I would watch the tournaments at BlizzCons, this year is the first year I didn't even order BlizzCon. I would watch and it would take like all this type of like, well, this is being generated and done because it's already at BlizzCon and Blizzard had already had all the legwork. So all we have to do is watch the end. And like, I don't even see people wanting to go check out like the process or the other parts of the brackets. And if you wanted to do that, I'm not even sure you could. So it's like, you're going to have to lay some more groundwork before we get as far as one of those old sports, right? Old sport.
Old sport.
Old sport.
Yeah, I guess. So, I mean, you shed some light, I was just bitter that this may never go into that sphere where I mean, like with anything, I could still do the same thing. People talk about YouTube, but they don't know about Twitch. Like, oh, you're watching someone play a video game. Yeah. It's still out there. But like I said, I'm pumped that the sports fans have had their thing for hundreds of years now, and now I have something that I could root for and that I like. I know what's going on. That's another thing with which sports is like. I know the basis, but like, I don't know what's really going on. But the thing is like, I could watch this and root for a team and root for something that I'm invested in myself, that I do on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And I'm really excited for where it's going. That's ultimately why I wanted to have this podcast, just because
absolutely
I think this is big. And like I said, what I was trying to say before is, Amazon threw $90 million into this just to broadcast it for 2 years on Twitch, because Amazon owns Twitch. They didn't have an agreement, and they threw $90 million What I like, if for the people that don't know, what I like, once again, like how Blizzard is doing something, like there's teams, but they're literally from cities which no other esport has. They have this like professional football team or a professional baseball team, where the city had to pay $20 million to get a team made.
Okay.
And big like the Philly team is owned by Comcast.
Okay.
The San Francisco team is, I'm not sure who they're owned by, but people like Shaquille O'Neal, J-Lo, and Marshawn Lynch have thrown money into it.
Well, it's like you were saying before. Amazon has money to spend. They're going to buy something like Twitch if they see it as a potential future like payout, and they're smart to be able to use all the money they have to invest. The other people are probably doing the same thing. It's a good thing to be able to jump in on if you can, I guess, involve that level of money or capital. It's got nowhere to go but up. I think it just needs some time for the recognition. I still feel like there's a stigma around it, where it's like, oh, you play video games, you should go outside, and like, yeah. and like you're like, well, you made the comparison before, like, well, someone told me people who play video games don't really go outside, and I'm like, well, then there's going to be this division of like fine motor skill and gross motor skills, and then you get to see people who play sports who are going to have to naturally be more athletic, and then people who do esports, they don't. It doesn't mean that they don't have to be athletic. We have to change the way we're going to think about what makes an athlete at something. So then you take the topic of, if you're talented at something, you have to put a lot of time into it. You have to put a lot of time into both. But there's this weird divide where it's just like, oh, sports, they're all a bunch of jocks, but they're good at what they do. And
I have another point though.
Like sports, they're a bunch of nerds stuck in their house. So
what about this? Like, I will get laughed at. Like, this has never happened to me, but I'm just saying, like, I would get laughed at for playing Overwatch and watching the Overwatch League, but other people watch the NFL and play competitive Madden like religiously, and that's okay.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
because it's still football. It's a man's video game.
The NFL is so big in America that it's going to be able to pull off things like that. Yes, mm-hmm. with no problem. Yeah. In fact, EA will make a lot of money off of a Madden video game, which has been chosen by the people as the one they want to buy every single year.
Right, and I'm just saying. I mean, isn't that some bullshit? Like, aren't we both doing something with pixels on a screen? Like,
I don't know. I mean, it's NFL is just that big. It's that popular.
You know what I'm saying though? Like, I'll get laughed at because I watch Overwatch League and play Overwatch. Mm-hmm. But someone won't because they watch the NFL, and then like let's throw a fucking number out there. Like, let's say I put in 40 hours a week into Overwatch, which is insane, but like,
that's a pretty long.
And they're like, dude, you waste 40 hours of your week like playing a video game while they're doing 40 hours of Madden.
Okay,
but that's okay
because it's football.
Because it's football, right?
It's okay. It's going to be okay too. So
yeah, just
don't mention that you're playing Overwatch.
Dude, I'll tell. And that's the thing, is that like, I do this stuff. Could I be doing something more productive? Yeah. But I do this with you. I write, I do other things, I just maybe an hour or two every couple of days, like I'll go on and play some matches because it makes me happy. But if you said, what did you watch? Did you watch the new season of Stranger Things, or have you watched Game of Thrones, or have you, or watched this movie or that movie? Because, everybody I don't like pointing. I don't like getting the finger pointed at me because of that.
Yeah.
When people can't wait. When people sit for 12 hours straight and watch a season of Stranger Things or whatever Netflix show is out.
Okay.
But me playing 2 hours or 4 hours or whatever, like if it's 4 hours on a Saturday or on a Sunday or whatever, like that's frowned upon. Like, dude, stop playing video games. Well, dude, you're watching fucking other people, like on a Netflix show.
Yeah, but there's a difference. They're watching television, and television's been running for a while. So like, if movies were popular for a very long time and the sports we were talking about have been around, television's been around also, and we're in a golden age of television. It's easy to get swept into it. I know I did.
Let's put it this way. Go ahead.
But
I want to say something after.
People are still going to be like, you're wasting your time with that stupid video game. What are you doing over there? And you want to have the counter argument of like, what are you doing over here? Isn't our time supposed to be what's preferred time for each of us? Yeah. And I'm coming from the standpoint of a person that used to watch way too much television, movies, and play video games. And I don't really do either anymore because I've just changed the way my lifestyle is. And it's difficult to not want to do the two older things that I used to find enjoyment in, but I just don't have time for it. So from my perspective, I understand how people can like something and want to keep doing it. And I know they have their own reasons, and everyone will back up their own reasons for wanting to like what they have and what they've been. And then they feel like they have a sort of affinity to it or an allegiance or time spent. But at the end of the day, you're still running into the same problem. People are saying these video games, they're not serious and they shouldn't be watched or played or be messed with. Then they're saying that their older form of enjoyment or older form of storytelling is predominant and is here to stay. And again, just like with the reference to the NFL, it is going to stay. I mean, movies are a really big deal as far as like these blockbuster movies that can be pumped out and make a ton of money. And television, like I said, I know that television's awesome, and I wish I had time to watch more of it. I actually try to put it on my phone so when I'm like moving or walking or getting steps or trying to be active, I can catch up on something. It's impossible to do both, almost.
What about this? Like, who's gonna get made fun of? Who's gonna get made fun more? The person that binge watches Daredevil, or the person that is a comic book nerd and reads Daredevil?
I don't know. I mean,
like, do you know Joel? Like, he reads some funny books.
You're probably like the video game nerd, the comic book nerd. Anyone that can get that classification will always be made fun of first.
But I'm reading, dude.
Doesn't matter. Reading's for nerds. So's the comics. So's the cards. So's the games.
Man.
It all gets like hurled into one.
This is why I stay by myself.
For what?
This is why I stay in this room.
Oh.
I go to work, I come home and stay in this room.
You can get stuck in that room for a while. I identify with that. Yeah. I used to do that. I used to do it for real long amounts of times. It could have been any of the things that we've been talking about. And I still have the knowledge of all that stuff. And it's nice to see modern day stuff come to fruition. Like the stuff that's happening with Marvel and they're doing the Infinity Sagas. And that's really, really cool. But I know it's cool because I knew what the story was and now I get to watch it, which I never thought would happen. But Disney's doing it, man. They're rocking it. They're making it acceptable for everybody. They're going to make a lot of money doing it, whether it's Marvel or Star Wars or you name it. It's just all it's gonna dominate. And I was telling someone today, I'm like, this wouldn't have been possible if Lord of the Rings hadn't like burst through the walls for epic fantasy back when they did. And honestly, they did us all a favor. So since we were already a fan of these genres, which is the trifecta, which is horror, sci-fi, and and the fantasy, I should reorder that. I should put sci-fi first because they're elitists. Then I'll say fantasy because it relates, and then I'll say horror last because most people don't know that horror is related. And because of that, all this stuff is still prevalent right now. That's why you can sit down and watch your Game of Thrones be told a real long story over time. Hey, where are you at with Game of Thrones?
I don't know, season 4 somewhere.
How are you liking that? Mm-hmm.
I stopped like I always do. Dude, because this is, like I said, this is the thing is I do this with you, try to get some writing done, and this is like an hour or two a night. Like that's what I'm done with here after getting home from work and doing the things that need to be done around here and doing some other stuff. My own personal stuff like this podcast or making videos or writing, is 1, maybe 2 hours a day. And by the time the weekend rolls around, it's some shiny new objects out there or some shiny new horror movies out there that, I take the 2 hours on a Sunday to consume before I pass out from drinking the night before.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm just saying, like, I take 1 day a week. I literally take 1 day a week to to and like it's literally one or two things. Yesterday I watched Disaster Artist, and I watched half of another movie because I wanted to do a couple things around here.
Okay.
Or I had to go to bed. Like I watched half a movie. I'm like,
okay,
oh, this is gonna start. Like I'm. It shows on what I was watching it on. It shows like the end time. So it says, oh, this is gonna end at 8 o'clock. I'm like, well, shit, I gotta go to bed. So let me cut this at 7 and do something, and then go upstairs to go to bed. You know.
Hey, you wouldn't happen to know? I'm probably asking the wrong person. What the most popular Beatles album cover was? I'm thinking like it's Sgt. Pepper.
Sgt. Pepper's.
Okay.
Yeah, but I should have a doubt. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think so.
Sgt. Pepper.
So that's it.
That's it.
I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this one. So
I don't think so. If anything, you're just incriminating yourself as a person that likes to play video games and read comics and watch horror movies. So that's not really. That's not too bad. You could have done worse. You could have done a lot worse. People probably gonna give you a lot of hate for not finishing Game of Thrones. And wait till they find out you're not watching The Walking Dead. Ooh, oof.
Dude, those people go fuck themselves.
You're digging it deep for yourself.
The Walking Dead.
Today was the first day. It was I think announced that it got accepted for season 9. Yeah.
Oh.
Season 9. Here we go, Joe. Season 9 in Abu Dhabi.
Oh man. Well. As always, this is the B Plus podcast. If you enjoyed it, please hit the give us a like. I'll probably get more dislikes on this one, but that's all right. Any press is good press, right? That's what they say in showbiz.
That's what they say in the business. Yeah.
That's what they say in the business here. Hit the subscribe button so you get the updates when we go live, and we'll see you next time. We're looking to do, what did we say?
We want to get this one during the week.
Oh, your topic.
And 2 on the weekend. What, my topic?
Yeah, we're going to talk about.
Oh, I have 2 things researched. Yeah, so it'll either be the Avengers trailer, which is to the movie that's already been out, and I had one other, but I wanted to jump on this
versus Arctic.
Which one? Oh yeah, let's do that next. That'll be fun. You got the cup?
I got the cup.
All right, we're set then.
I'll tell you what. This thing, a little preview. This thing, my toe out back froze. So
wait, you put that outside?
Well, it was there, and I didn't know they shipped it. So it was like one day that I didn't know.
Long.
So yeah, I went outside.
Sorry,
they were all cracked.
Wait, yeah, did they break?
Yeah, they all broke and stuff. So I've been getting.
If there's not enough space for them to freeze, hey, did you call Tulp? What did they say?
I didn't call them. It's my fault. But so I fill this thing with ice, and the ice stays there forever. First of all, so I fill it.
Yes,
and then
a couple days.
Right here when I'm doing anything like podcasting or writing, or I got a gallon, so I just fill this with ice, and then there's my gallon a day or whatever. I just pour it in. It's sitting right here on the floor.
What are you gonna do with your semi-broken and maybe still frozen jugs? That's a problem I'd like to solve.
What do you mean? Well, let's end this podcast because these people don't gotta hear it. Good night, everybody.
Hear about your Tulp and Hawken water?
We're gonna do it on the next podcast.